buses that's been blocked, and they're supposed to take their left towards the cathedral area. That's where the cathedral is. A good number of them have actually moved towards where the cathedral is, but from your shot you can see that it's now that the majority of the crowd is moving towards the cathedral area where they're supposed to make a right, and so they make a left turn at the traffic light before the NDC headquarters here in Ablakwa. The police is not allowing them to use the frontage in front of the NDC headquarters because that road has been blocked, and so they have to use the traffic light road before the NDC headquarters and head towards the intersection at the cathedral before they can make the TUC stretch and then head off towards the Lottis side. But this is what we've been able to secure exclusive to us. The petition against Dr. Ernest Addison is an 18-point petition that the minority is hoping, or the organizers are hoping, to present to him or the leadership of the Bank of Ghana when the demonstration is done. Well, as to whether they'll be able to make it, well, organizers say that they will define the blockage and head towards there. But this is what the details of the petition entails. And I'm just going to take it from the point 16 down towards the 18. That considering the average profits made by the central bank since 2012 is about 1.5 billion, and assuming that all the profits will be retained going forward, it will take more than 20 years for the central bank to move to positive equity. This means that the fate of the central bank of Ghana hangs solely in the ability of an already insolvent and bankrupt government to recapitalize it. Now, let me go down to the 17. The analysis of the mayor and his governor and his deputies have stated at the Bank of Ghana shows that there are only three options to get the Bank of Ghana out of this self-inflicted predicament. One, introduce a tax to recapitalize the Bank of Ghana, divert proceeds of an existing tax to recapitalize the Bank of Ghana, and therefore forgo critical government expenditure in education, health, and roads, or this government should, which has borrowed more than all governments combined in the history, may have borrowed more than 6 billion to fulfill this. Now, let me go to the 19, which is the concluding part. That through this Occupy BOG protest march, we will call on the governor and his two deputies to resign now for a new team to be appointed as a matter of urgency to fix the mess. That the governor Addison printed of money is like alcoholism. The perceived good effect comes immediately, and the hangover comes after the party. You printed money to finance the champagne lifestyle on a petition budget of the Kufuor government. Today, Ghana is on its knees. Resign now. Thank you. Signed, Dr. Kesela Sofosin, the minority leader. So, Crosby, this is the exclusive petition that we have. So now you can see from the shot now, they're moving in their numbers. Right in front. This was the road where the contention was at. But you can see them in your shot over there, moving gradually. The numbers, well, a good number of them are out there, and you can see that the numbers keep increasing. We have seen also a good number of people demonstrating on the motorbike. They are even far ahead of me, somewhere around the cathedral side. We're just going to turn a little bit for you to see if you can get them stuff over there. This is how the numbers look like towards the cathedral side. Right. And when it comes to the opposite of it, this is what the numbers look like. Those who are coming from the
we'll get back to you in the course of the bulletin for some more updates still on the Occupy BOG protest. Let's cross over to my colleague Garrick Marineg for some other happenings as part of the Occupy BOG protest.
The road headed towards Accra and Kokobot, and you can see for yourself. These are going to be a number of the instances that will be witnessed going forward today. There's a lot of agitation, a lot of anger from these individuals, and the police is remaining resolute in their stance as the water cannon truck is stationed. Interestingly, some of these police officers have body cams on them as well, and so you may have heard for a long time the police described or announced that they were going to procure body cameras to allow for the control of the crowd and the policing of protests and the likes. Well, body cams have been deployed by the police this time round after the Occupy Jilobi protesters were picked up from the 37 Trotro station. Today, we're seeing some of the police officers in body cams. Stanley, are we on air?
Particular route that has been blocked. Is this what was agreed by you and the police?
Well, I mean, we know that we are supposed to turn left and go to the Ridge Roundabout. So this takes us there, but the road in front of the party office also takes us there. That's why I'm trying to convince them that there's no real difference. So they should let us. That's why you see me going and coming back, trying to convince them that this is more convenient, even for us, because you know that when you take this road, by the time you get to after the party office, it's a very, very narrow. So, but they're insisting that they must pass through in front of their party office. So we need to convince them.
But originally, that was not an arrangement with the Ghana Police Services.
I don't think that we were all very clear on we just knew the hotel left. But as to which junction specifically, I'm not sure we were very clear on it. We knew that we were supposed to turn left from here at Ablakwa here and then hit the Ridge Roundabout. I know that. But whether this junction or the next junction, honestly, I wasn't involved in those details. So Sami Jenfi was one who was fleshing out the details with them. So let me talk to the people. Let me talk to them.
All right. So that's Mahama Yariga over there. He is trying as much as it is. There appears to be. Almost 2 hours. It's trying as much as it is. There appears to be a bit of a standoff. The police will not budge. Before you get to the traffic lights, that's at the intersection of the NDC headquarters in Ablakwa. That is where there's a stalemate, for want of a better word. They are here, they are not moving. And if you look far at the other side, you know, scores of the protesters are also up there, and they don't want to move on. It appears that there's some understanding now, and that they are moving. They just turned to their left, and the protest is continuing unabated, and they are insisting that this is going to be a demand. I mean, some of the things that's on the placards read Akufado, return the stolen money, Addison must go. We're suffering, enough is enough, nurses are suffering. I mean, drop the BOG headquarters now. So much, and the hashtag that Dr. Addison must go, occupy the BOG is still relevant as it is.
Well, so some more updates coming from the Occupy BOG protest there, where my colleagues Eric Maunegbeta and Kumla Kluche will be bringing us the updates when they happen as part of the protest. Already we understand that it is getting to the time of the differences in the routes approved by the police and those rejected by the minority members of parliament. We'll still stay with this subject and bring you details, but if you're still joining us, if you're just joining us on the program, this is what you need to know about the Occupy Bank of Ghana protest. Reminder that we're also live on 3FM 92.7, also on all our social media platforms at TV3 Ghana. But the details of the Occupy BOG protest will be on your screen shortly. These are the organizers of the protest, mainly the minority in parliament. We're talking about the NDC and they have received support from members of Arise Ghana, from COPEC, from APC and other CSOs and some other political parties as well. Now, the major point of concern is the roots of the demonstration. So the beginning at the Obra Spot, which they did earlier, through to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, through to Adabraka, to the Ridge Roundabout, the National Theatre traffic light, the Law Court Complex traffic light, the Atta Mills Highway, and then a U-turn to the Independence Square. This is where it is anticipated that some disagreements will happen between the protesters and the police service, particularly on the issue of routes. Remember that because of the routes approval and the non-approval by the police service, the demonstration was postponed a couple of times. Even an injunction application came as a result of that. This is the demand of the organizers of the group. They are demanding the resignation of the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, and his two deputies over their mismanagement of the central bank, as it posted excess of 60 billion in losses, according to the bank's own statement in 2022. This is the basis of their demand, that the BOG officials are accused of mismanaging the central bank, resulting in a loss of 55.1 billion cedis in the recent financial report, and alleged unlawful printing of over 80 billion cedis to shore up the government's budget. They are also saying that as part of the basis demanding the resignation of the governor of the central bank and his deputies, the construction of a Bank of Ghana head office, a new head office at a cost of more than $200 million, and that according to some lawmakers, including Mahama Yaruga, who is also championing this demonstration, says that Ghanaians have been shortchanged as a result, coming up from the fact that the country was in crisis when these things happened. And they're saying that the general economic challenges with unstable value of currency, which has resulted in high cost of living and unemployment as key concerns. Therefore, the Bank of Ghana cannot afford to decide to expend this amount of money to construct a new head office. We've already heard from the governor of the Bank of Ghana suggesting some defenses or reasons why this project has to go on, saying that it is a project that had begun already at a period that the bank was making some profits and not losses. But according to the minority members of parliament, these reasons offered by the Bank of Ghana to demand a new head office, which include to construct a new head office building which will be earthquake proof, does not sit well with these minority members of parliament, particularly coming at a time that the nation has been in severe distress. And if the Bank of Ghana is able to use this amount of money to construct a new head office building that the minority members of parliament do not think is needed at this moment, then it adds up to a number of factors to demand that the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, and his two deputies leave the Bank of Ghana in the protest that they're calling Occupy Bank of Ghana. It is coming on the back of a recent protest, the Occupy Jubilee House protest, which was organized by members of the Fix the Country movement, all in relation to similar matters of economic mismanagement, hardship in the country, and issues alike. So these protesters, if you remember, during the Occupy Jubilee House protest, locked off with the police over routes, and the police did not allow them to go past the 37 military hospital to present their petition to the petitioners to present their petition to, who the government will bring out to receive the petition. So this is also something was seen as being replicated in this regard. Some disagreements over the routes approved by the police service and those rejected by the organizers of the protest. Currently, the protest has left the Obra sport area, currently around the Adabraka area, and in an attempt to move towards what the minority is suggesting as the route they have not agreed upon with the police service. My colleague Komla Kluchi was telling us some details of this petition by the minority members of parliament demanding the resignation of the governor of the Bank of Ghana. Let's cross over to my colleague Komla Kluchi for some more happenings. Komla, good afternoon again. Where have you gotten to and what is the latest happening there? Well, unfortunately, we have lost connection with Komla Kluchi, but we'll definitely reconnect with them, bringing you some more happenings on the Occupy BOG protest. A number of police personnel have already been deployed at vantage points as part of the demonstration. We've already heard from the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedin Ketia, speak there, as well as some other sympathizers of the party and those partaking in the protest. Their demands are pretty simple. They want better living conditions, and these are some of the happenings in your scene, on your scenes now, on your screens now. You see some of the sights and sounds. Some youth, some protesters venting their spleen over the poor handling of issues in the country. Komla Kluchi, I understand, has joined us. Komla, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Noble.
Great. Talk to me
Noble,
about,
I can hear you.
Talk to me about where you are and what the routes are looking like. I see the presence of the police blocking the road towards my right, but what is the latest happening there?
So what you can see from your shot, this is the cathedral intersection. So the demonstrators, you can see them from the side over there. They want to use this side towards the KUC section, but the road is blocked. You can see the police over there in the shop. They are not allowing them. The direction is for them to head towards to the Reach roundabout area, and then they can take it off towards to the Independence Square. Vehicular traffic is being directed to go to the other side. But I'm just going to try and see if I can get some of the protesters to talk to as to why they are standing in the middle of the road. In fact, this is just the middle of the here at the cathedral traffic light. The vehicles are finding it quite difficult to move towards the Let me just engage with you. I mean, you should move. To also move. Why are you standing here? Why are you moving?
But I just see. But because we agree with the police where we're supposed to pass. And right now, that they are good barricades here. And so what do we expect to come? Since the house. And we're supposed to pass this. And it's equal the demonstration. There's nobody carrying anything. We just pass to make our protest. And look at what the governor is doing. Suppressing everything. He doesn't want anything to wait. No working, nothing. All that he thinks of is to, around the people. Sit back. Just people demonstration. Then peacefully. You can see it's not peaceful. Why did you want to oppress the people? Meanwhile, the system is hard. Let's talk about our grievances today. You don't want them to say. What is it?
Well, as it is now, you do not have any option. You cannot defy the police, so you're going to have to go through to the route we are directing you to. We are waiting for some of our leaders to come around before we know where we can pass, because this is our way. This is our way that all the demonstrations will take this direction to Accra Police, through that to Accra Sports Independence Square. We want to pass through Makolis to demonstrate so that the market women should know what is happening to Ghana. Because we are all suffering. This is a free will as a citizen of the Republic of Ghana. We are all suffering. Go and ask of Paul of Kenya today. Go and ask a chief go and ask. They know that we also suffering. But because of the authority, the Republic of Ghana, the president are giving them authority. That is why they do all this. We can't.
What we are rich is about time the media have power. You know, it's not for to oppress the people. Every time people demonstrate, look at what they did to them. They arrest the president. Yes, it's simple. We are dealing with the police. leaders have given the police 20 parts, and then you come and broke it. Dirty problem. You end up to say that the police are lawless or what? You know, police, no. It's so bad. And you the media spoke about it.
Anytime. So Novo, you can see, I mean, the whole place is choked, and the people are not moving. The main road leading towards to the Airtel Tico headquarters and the natural area has been blocked off the side. It's been blocked by the police, and they're just not allowing them. It means that they just have to go use the reach roundabout side. So this is the second blockade that they're asking them to use. And to them, and this is unheard of, because all the demonstrations that they have done, they have actually not used these routes that they are bringing. So the police is directing them. The police is directing them to just use it for a fight. But, well, I mean, the reaction is that they're not going to do it. This is what the situation looks like, but it does appear that irrespective of whatever it is, the police is not going to budge, and they're just going to go by what they have blocked in terms of the routes that they have to use, and they're not going to budge on it. Well, the leaders, I cannot see any of them where I am now. From the shop, you can see even a petrol tanker that is blocked over there in front of the cathedral. That's not being able to move. But the MPPD is at the other side from the psychiatric section, directing the vehicles to move towards the silent down area, so the demonstrators can also use the other side of the road, which is the private reach roundabout area. This is what it looks like. I can tell you that this is just about a quarter of the people. A huge number is this particular crowd you see very close to the headquarters, right on the approach at the first instance that they've not been able to come to. So this is what it does appear that the people want to defy the police, and the police will also not budge. It's been a peaceful one. Nobody has had any confrontation in terms of fight for any arrest. Right. Concern, at least that's the information that's available to me now. So it's been a peaceful protest as it is, irrespective of the blockade. They still insisting, okay, let me see if I can catch a bit
thank you so much. Komla Kluche, we'll get back to you for some more updates on the latest human barricade formed by the police service in relation to, again, the routes approved or rejected by the police service and the minority members of parliament, plus the protesters. Let's cross over to Eric Maunegbata, who also has some more of the happenings on the Occupy BOG protests.
Parliament. It's been a procession that's been ongoing for over 2 hours now. They began converging a long time ago from 6 a.m. at the Obra spot here in Accra, and they've been moving on. But just a short while ago, there was a blockade just ahead, I think behind us now, where the protesters, a number of them were a bit agitated and angered that they weren't allowed access through that particular part of town. But it all looks like it's been resolved, and so they are making their way headed now towards the Electoral Commission area, where I get indication that because of the large number, some of the leadership of the minority, the NDC, already up there, already in wait of them. Quite a number of the dignitaries as well. The General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Avikwete, as well, in your shorts. The North Tongue MP Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, and the likes. And so maybe we'll just continue to pick a few more thoughts as we continue to bring you live coverage. Let's speak briefly to the General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Avikwete. Many thanks for speaking to us. I just saw that, I won't call it a misunderstanding, but some of the protesters were really eager, wanting to use that part of town headed towards Cocoa Board. It looks like the police has prevented you, and now you're making the diversion headed towards the Electoral Commission area.
Yeah, I would say that we've allowed this to be led by our colleagues in the minority. So as much as possible, we look to them for leadership on this one. It's not a party that necessarily is leading it. So the understanding they've had with the police as much as possible, we want to go with that understanding. We want the thousands who are out on the street to appreciate our enemy is not the police. We are not here fighting a battle at all with the police. We have a plan to be able to send a message to people who are higher up. So as much as possible, we should have a collaboration with the police and ensure that the larger agenda, which is to be able to send a clear message to the authorities at the Bank of Ghana, and for that matter in government, in order to appreciate the anger in the hearts of the people of Ghana. And that really should be what our focus should be.
It continues to be a case in point, the argument being made strongly that the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, needs to resign. You're somebody with a lot of financial background. You were on the finance committee, deputy minister of finance at one point, a minister of state in charge of finance at one point. Walk us through the numbers again, because there's been a lot of defense from the finance minister. I'm sure you might have even read his open letter to Ghanaians, where he stated quite clearly that there's been a lot of sacrifices made by the central bank governor and himself in helping to keep the economy afloat, and that in fact we're turning the corner. Yet it appears you in the NDC are not satisfied.
You know, the real tragedy is that we are living in a time where institutions have become so depraved. I mean, they've become so perverted that people who actually have been given constitutional authority to fight for this nation and fight for the state believe that their real mandate now is simply to fight for the government that is in charge. And that, for me, is a massive tragedy. Listen, we were in this country between 2013 up to 2016, and we faced a lot of massive economic difficulties. We had a central bank governor and two deputies who, by every indication, were people appointed by our government. But never at any point did we have a situation where you have a central bank governor who is ready to literally cause massive inflation by printing money in support of a government. We never had that. We had a central bank governor who was ready to make sure that when we had a provision for zero financing at the central bank, that zero financing was adhered to. That's what you do when you have conscience. But when you have people who literally have sold their conscience and think that their capacity to be in the position they are simply making the MPP government happy, then there's a trouble. Honestly, we should not be asking him to resign. If he had any conscience left, he himself should actually be resigning. You know, so it's a real tragedy at the moment. It's a real tragedy.
Right. You've spoken to it, but perhaps I want to just pick your thoughts briefly on another subject matter. It has to do with the voter registration which just ended yesterday, the limited one. You in the NDC had raised concerns, the challenges, the disenfranchisement. The Electoral Commission has at all times come out to parry these accusations. Yesterday they said that they weren't going to extend the registration exercise and that next year there's going to be the opportunity for as many individuals as possible to register. For you in the NDC, how do you take it? Consistently, as you've made the argument that a lot of such faulty machines were in your strongholds.
Unfortunately, just as we are talking about the Bank of Ghana, the Electoral Commission is another of these completely bastardized institutions. I mean, being led by people who think that their number one priority is to make the government happy as opposed to doing what is right for the country. And that's a sad thing. Especially coming from my own friend, Jean Mensah, who was at IEA and was a champion for good governance. And for her to now become electoral commissioner and take this institution to the low level it has become, it's a real tragedy. But you know what? For the sake of the people of Ghana, we in NDC are ready to do whatever we can to ensure that this government changes. And I know Jean Mensah will do everything possible to try to protect them because she feels her own survival depends upon the success of the MPP. But that they will both lose. Jean Mensah will lose, and the government she's supporting will lose because the people of Ghana will ensure that the change happens.
People of Ghana will ensure that the change happens. But just maybe your general thoughts, yes, there were challenges, but your general thoughts as to the entire exercise. You deployed your your executives and the likes to monitor, guide the process and the likes. We've heard from the EC as well, who's made the case that because of the registration of minors, it is the case that perhaps the Ghana card is the one true way to deal with such instances. Hence, they are going to be using the CI opportunity again to table it before Parliament to have the Ghana card as a sole identifier for persons to get onto the electoral roll.
You know, we've always had what you call systems in place to ensure that whatever, should I call it, anomalies are in place, you find ways of checking them up. That's why you have political parties that are empowered to be present to ensure that proper challenges are brought. If you feel there's a minor registering, you have different political parties you can raise that and you bring it up for a proper conversation, then the Electoral Commission can take a decision. But to simply capitalize on the fact that instances of minors, and that justifies what they want to do, which amount to using a system, because if you watch right now, you'll notice that many more people got onto that register using the guarantor system rather than the Ghana card. It tells you that a lot of people still do not have access to that Ghana card. So the Electoral Commission, unfortunately, has been pushing an agenda, which agenda works to suppression of vote, and the people of Ghana will make sure that does not happen.
Right then, many thanks, Honourable. That's the General Secretary of the NDC, the Honourable Fifi Fiavi Kwete, and he's been providing a bit more details, a bit more context as to this Occupy Bank of Ghana protest that we're seeing. They're moving now, headed towards the NDC, the EC head office, as they continue in their procession. We'll be getting a bit more as well from the individuals present here. But it is the Occupy Bank of Ghana protest by the minority MPs. That's the NDC members of Parliament. They are continuing in their protest, and there are a large number of individuals who are ahead of us who continue to participate and partake in this particular protest. I've seen the Norton MP as well, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. I've seen Al-Hassan Suhini as well. There are different strands of conversations that we can have with these other individuals as well. The Vice Chair of the NDC as well is present. We'll try and pick thoughts as well from all of these individuals for you as we continue our coverage here on TV3, live on Facebook, DSTV channel 279 and the likes. Perhaps maybe now I'll pick the thoughts of the Norton MP Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, because he's taken the task up of an investigative journalist somewhat as well. In the last few weeks, moved from Demon Investigations, has been exploring other investigations, which he continues. Yeah, that's the argument being made, that now he's competing with journalists. But in the last 2 days, there's been 2 separate publications that you've made. The first one in relation to Frontiers, and then one Heavenway in relation to some parcels of land which have been allocated to certain individuals. A company called Heavenway. Heaven Builders. Let's start off with a Frontiers healthcare contract and what it is that you've been able to intercept in terms of documents. That particular piece of document has become very difficult to come by. I recall during the vetting of the ministers in the second term of this current administration, the vetting committee asked a number of ministers the questions who orchestrated the contract and the likes, and nobody was able to provide the responses to that particular question. But you've been able to discover certain things in that regard. What is it that you found out?
Clearly, another manifestation of create, loot and share. A buccaneer government collaborating with plutocratic entrepreneurs to exploit the Ghanaian people. And the sad aspect of all of this is that this happened during a pandemic, when people were dying, when we had a global public health emergency. And you'll expect that leadership will be compassionate, leadership will be empathetic. All we see from the documents that I have intercepted, and I have only published the first part, which is the offer letter. The offer letter of August 31, 2020 reveals how this whole Frontiers deal was cooked.
Right.
Frontiers did not have the track record. It hurriedly incorporated just 2 months to the reopening of the airport. Remember, the airport was opened on the 1st of September. The content of the offer letter reveals that this was a total giveaway, a very one-sided, skewed deal, where Frontiers was exempted from paying water bills. Frontiers was asked to keep $140 out of the $150 they were charging every passenger, and the whole Republic, Ghana Airport Company, which is a public entity, all of us, we were to have only $10. I mean, you wonder, did they put a gun to the head of Mr. Yakwakwa, who signed it? And when you read the first paragraph of that offer letter, he reveals that the offer letter is subsequent to discussions they had held behind the scenes. The question that arises is, who were those in those meetings? Where did those discussions take place? And why didn't they resort to the public procurement authority? Why is it that our procurement laws were sidelined? The whole Frontiers deal did not go through a procurement process. It was just calling a buccaneer company, a plutocratic company with very dubious track record. And you see, if we have visionary leaders, patriotic leaders who care about our country, this is a testing deal that could have gone to Noguchi, for example, or Kolebu Central Laboratory, or the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research. And what will have happened in the process is that we will have built capacity. Imagine what Noguchi can do with $130 million, which is the profit that Frontiers has made. $130 million could have transformed. It will have transformed Noguchi. And what that transformation will mean is that young researchers will have had jobs to do. Noguchi will have been able to buy new equipment. Will have modernized Noguchi. So, on all fronts, if you look at this Frontiers deal, it just shows you that Ghana is being led now by people who are not patriotic, who don't care about our country, who will sacrifice the national interest for just private gain. And that is what is so, sad about this whole deal. I must also add that what we have intercepted also confirms why the Ghana Airport Company Limited has gone that far to conceal these documents from you in the media and from other Ghanaians. I remember Manasseh Azuri filed an ITR request. He was ignored. Joy FM filed. They even had to go to the RTI Commission petition. The Ghana Airport Company was fined. And to think that the Ghana Airport Company Limited didn't mind paying $200,000 just to hide this information from the general public, it should tell you that they themselves are not proud of the deal. Because if the deal had been above board, if it had been in the national interest, if it was not laden with corruption and blatant thievery, they would not have gone to that extent to conceal the information.
This is just part one, a bit detailed. This part one that you've been laying bare for us. Is there more based on what you've told us? And I think what will be on the minds of Ghanaians is, if it is this bad and we have almost a hung parliament, can we trust the minority to hold this government to some account in relation to these things that it is that you've discovered?
I can assure you that we are not only in the business of doing exposés. We are going to make sure there is action and that people are sanctioned. People are made to face the music. Already we have filed a motion calling for a parliamentary inquiry into this whole Frontiers deal. So be rest assured You have seen other probes. You saw the Sputnik V probe. You saw the Canofriata must go probe. So we have shown in time past that we have the capacity to initiate probes. And I can assure you that colleagues are ready to delve deep into these matters and to make sure that these faceless looters are brought to the fore on live television. They are named and shamed, and they are made to pay for their crimes.
The Heavenway bid is what perhaps I want you to just give us a brief details of. I read the details for myself, and it's a bit murky to the mind of the ordinary Ghanaian. A group or a Heavenway builders, it is that you make the case, being given up to 100 plus.
About 38 acres. Look, let me summarize it. It is a clear case of looting prime lands. The Ghana Airport Company has about 93 acres of land lying for further expansion, lying bare now for further expansion. The airport company has decided to do two city projects, and they could have raised equity because they have title. The land belongs to them. They don't need any middleman. But shockingly, they bring in a middleman, the owner of Heaven Builders Limited. And you see what is going on. They always look for some Member National Cathedral acres. Can you believe that? The claim is that they said they will do some road construction and provide some amenities valued at $85 million. Now, nobody knows how they arrived at that $85 million. There is no independent mechanism to check if indeed they will even invest that $85 million. Now, if you look at the going rate, an acre of land at Airport Residential will not cost you less than $4 million. So, these Heaven Builders are walking away with $152 million, smiling all the way to the bank. Clear land grab, land looting. And what even makes matters worse, Heaven Builders feel so emboldened because of the people behind it. And part two, I'll be revealing the people behind it.
These are non-government individuals?
Don't worry, we'll get there. So they are so bold that they have made a counter offer that 38 acres is not big enough for them. They want 62 acres. Can you believe that? And because of that, the current MD is being threatened with dismissal. And they are insisting that the deal should be hurried through so that they can have 62 acres, which will give them profits in excess of $250 million when they sell those lands. The question is, if the predecessors of these managers at the Ghana Airport Company had engaged in this naked land looting, would any land have been left for even expansion to Terminal 3 where we have now? This is an airport that is growing, that will always need land to expand. And we want to give all away to Heaven Builders and their cronies in government. So we are saying that, first of all, this whole concept should have been brought to Parliament. Look, Ghana belongs to the people. The airport belongs to the people. Why is it that Parliament was not given this new policy direction so that we will debate it? Because they know that what they are doing, they can't defend it publicly. So they sit secretly behind the scenes, under the cover of darkness, and then they are carving out the lands for themselves. But we are going to scuttle this deal. We are determined to stop it. We are going to make sure that if they are really Heaven Builders, they should go to heaven. We will not allow a bunch of buccaneer entrepreneurs who are only really waiting for cronies to get into power and then they loot. We owe the next generation. Look, just as our fathers, grandfathers, our forefathers left legacies for us, left assets for us, left resources for us, we owe the next generation. Look, Ghana is being finished. And I agree with MPP stalwarts who are now confessing. You heard Kennedy Ejapon say that, look, the way they are looting his own colleagues in government, the way they are looting like there's no tomorrow. You have heard Amwakuba, he spoke on your station, TV3, and he said, look, we have stolen everything. You've heard Alan Chamatin say that unscrupulous apparatchiks have hijacked the party and are destroying the country. So enough is enough. That's what we are saying. And this demonstration is to let Akufo-Addo, Bawumia, and all his appointees know that, look, I read come inside. The Ghanaian people are angry. We have absolutely had it now. We will not accept this blatant thievery, this looting, this destruction. I mean, we don't even care about the next generation. What are we leaving for our children? What are we leaving for the young people? Instead of industrializing, instead of showing visionary leadership to alleviate the plight of the people, to bring hope, it's all about personal acquisition, personal amassment of wealth, looting, self-aggrandizement. We cannot continue this way.
Right. Honorable, many thanks. I see Norton MP Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa speaking to us there in extensive interview in relation to two documents that he's made public in the last few days. First, in relation to the Frontiers Healthcare Frontiers contract, really. They were responsible for the COVID testing at the airport for quite a long time. And then a new one, Heaven Buildway, which he made revelations of as to some acres of land being handed over to a company, amongst other things. But this is still the Occupy Bank of Ghana demonstration, and we're continuing on the principal street, headed now towards the former headquarters of the Electoral Commission.